It's now time for your Election Crimes Bulletin with Greg Palast.
And this is Dennis Bernstein with Greg Palast. We do the Election Crimes Bulletin just about every week with Greg Palast because we are in a battle to protect your vote. And you know, Greg, Trump said he's saying that they're going to come get him Tuesday. I don't know. They're going to come get him soon, though. He's going to have to face some charges. There's also going to be a whole bunch of delays. We'll talk about that. But what's really going to happen here? Is there going to be an election, or is there going to be a trial? Will he be able to wiggle around, given now that we see this little problem with venue?
Oh, yeah. So right now, Donald Trump has received a target letter from the Justice Department. That's what happens when you're about to get indicted. This would be specifically regarding the withholding documents. The ultimate nail in the coffin, I think what really moved Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, to take action was getting a recording from one of Trump's lawyers in which Trump admitted very specifically that he had a classified document. Not just any classified document, but the secret plans for invading Iran if the president chose to. That's serious stuff, and here's the problem. They can't find it. Apparently Trump and his lawyers can't. Someone literally left somewhere the U.S. plans for invading Iran are floating around somewhere. This is now it is. So what's happened is the stakes it's gone from just paper shuffling and should he have taken box of papers. Now it's getting real serious, especially when you can't find a document. Obviously there's suspicions he sold this off or did something with that document for his benefit. I mean, it's not something you just kind of leave around. It's not junk mail. So this is serious stuff. The reason also what's very interesting is taking the case to a second grand jury in Florida. That's probably because Jack Smith is more than aware of the clock, which is that if he gets too close to an election, he's going to have a judge say, I'm sorry, you can't have a criminal trial of a guy running who's the nominee of a major party for president if he wins that nomination. So I think he's moved it to Florida to speed things along because the first thing that Trump's people are going to do is say the crime, if there was the alleged crime, was committed in Florida, therefore it really has to be in the location where the crime supposedly was committed. Unless you say that the crime was committed, of course, in D.C. when he took it out of the White House. But I think Smith is also worried that Trump's lawyers will claim that a Washington, D.C. jury, in other words, a black jury, will hang him high, and that he can only get a fair trial in Florida, which is pretty well split Democratic Republican. So I think that Smith is being strategic. He's looking at the clock. He knows what he's doing. He's a great prosecutor. Obviously, I don't think Trump's lawyers' words made a difference to the Justice Department. I've seen it work before when the former Attorney General was hired by the billionaires in Georgia to get Southern Company out of an indictment. So sometimes that works, but in this case, I think Jack Smith was just like, yeah, I've heard it. And the guy has done war crimes trials. He's heard it all.
When they move in terms of the trial of O.J. Simpson, didn't they move it to Simi Valley and end up with a different kind of decision? I mean, wasn't it very effective there?
You know what? That's trivia. You stumped me. I don't remember when had the trial for.
I'm gonna find out. You know, I'm just thinking about that. There was a whole big thing. But anyway,
venue is important.
Venue is important. It will be much more friendly in Florida. But clearly, there is they do have a case in terms of venue. And you could get tied up in that for a long time. Now, even if they come get him on Tuesday, I don't know if they'll cuff him and take his photograph. It's still going to take, I guess, a year or so to get to trial. The trial is going to happen maybe before, but I doubt it. It'll happen after the election. You have a what does that mean to the investigation?
Well, I think
the trial?
I think Smith's moving to Florida is because he has his eye on the calendar. And so he doesn't want to waste 2 months on arguments over what the venue should be. And then if they move it, they got to start again. So I think he just wants to move quick on the trial. I suspect that, looking at the calendar, I suspect he's going to do more rifle shot, like the Iran invasion plans were withheld. It's missing. He shouldn't have taken them. He admitted he knew it was wrong. He might concentrate on that one document and make it in an attempt to make it a very speedy trial instead of like having a discussion of 107 boxes of documents or something. You know, if he's strategic, he'll hit that one thing, and that's more than sufficient. The rest sounds like a kind of almost like a clerical fight. But when you're talking about losing the plans, knowing you had plans you shouldn't have for the invasion of Iran, that's just that. If he concentrates on that, he can move quickly.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem. He's got a problem. Yeah. You're listening to Flashpoints on Pacifica Radio. Well, I know, Greg, that you are in mourning today for Pat Robertson, who passed away. He did live to the ripe old age of 93. He was a defunct Reverend who had a very interesting background and who wasn't afraid to expand his reach all the way to Africa.
Yes, so I did a massive investigation of the Reverend Pat Robertson, who, as you say, isn't actually Reverend. He was defrocked by the Southern Baptist Church, which takes quite a bit, by the way. So he was defrocked for his financial shenanigans and for getting involved in politics when they didn't want that. So he's not a Reverend. And as you mentioned, Congo. So, for example, one of the things we discovered, I did this investigation for The Guardian. And by the way, one way I got the investigation, I met with Pat Robertson, who weirdly was a fan of mine, and they were going to sue The Guardian over our report, except that they didn't realize I had actually secretly recorded the Reverend Pat, or the ex-Reverend Pat, admitting to several financial crimes. I got that on a tape recorder, which I had hidden at that time, only a teeny-weeny reel-to-reel tape recorder hidden in a cigarette lighter, though weirdly I forgot to bring my cigarettes, but I still got away with it. I don't smoke. But one of the things he did, I was told, I said that he never prays unless TV cameras are on. There was one exception when he actually prayed without a TV camera on. He'd raised millions of dollars from his flock, from the 700 Club, which, by the way, stands for donating $700 a year. Hear that, KPFA donors? $700 a year. You're getting the 700 Club. And they raised millions and millions of dollars to feed the poor people of Rwanda after the massacre. And so Pat Robertson took these planes, which are oddly pretty heavy-duty planes, big planes, to Rwanda, dropped off plane loads of food, cameras rolling. Then the planes took off, cameras not rolling, and they went to the Congo, where those heavy planes picked up heavy diamond mining equipment and went off to Pat Robertson's secret diamond mines. He owned diamond mines, and that's what he used the money for from the 700 Club. In addition, as you well know, for those who've seen my film, The Assassination of Hugo Chavez, the ex-Reverend Pat Robertson called for the assassination of Hugo Chavez. He said, "We have commandos, let's take this guy out. He's sitting on our oil." And why would he care so much about removing Hugo Chavez? And the answer was Chavez refused to give Pat Robertson a gold mining concession in Venezuela. And the final...
Greg, I have to interrupt, Greg. I think I'm getting a report. We need to check this, that Trump was indicted 5 minutes ago. Can we follow that up? We're getting a message. I want to confirm that, but just not to let it go that the former president of the United States may have been indicted for crimes.
Yes, okay, it is official. I'm laughing. I don't know why I'm laughing about it.
Yeah, really.
The former president, has indeed been officially indicted for obstruction of the National Archives, and he will indeed have to appear Tuesday in Miami at 3 p.m. And,
Tuesday in Miami at 3 p.m.
Right, and on Tuesday. So
he was telling the truth to his masses this time when he said he called it Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. Oh my God.
And of course, Pat Robertson was a big fan of Donald Trump. For a man of God, he saw another, or man of Satan, depending on how you look at it. So he was a big supporter of Donald Trump. And of course, Pat Robertson is where we get the phrase New World Order for George Bush Sr.'s New World Order creation that would replace the communist world order in the Cold War. It was Pat Robertson who did warn us that there was a cabal of bankers, Presbyterians, and the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Senate Finance Committee who are taking their orders directly from Satan. Now, I should note that in that cabal, the U.S. Senate Banking Committee, I should say, the chairman of that banking committee who helped create the Federal Reserve was Pat Robertson's father, who was a senator, chairman of the banking committee, helped create the Federal Reserve Board. So that's the weird story of father and son. So Pat Robertson basically saw his father as Satan's commander on earth. I don't know why I'm laughing about it, because we're all paid the price for the Christian Coalition, including the Christian Coalition illegally backed George Bush Sr. for president by sending out millions and millions of tens of millions of pieces of mail to born-again Christians saying you have to vote for George Herbert Walker Bush against Michael Dukakis and then against
I think Ralph Reed actually bragged about delivering the new Republican right-wing like virgin lumber to the Republican Party, or some quote like that.
Yes, well, I have to say he is absolutely correct. He deserves credit, if you want to call it credit, for recreating the Republican Party as an adjunct of the Christian Coalition and
right.
making born-again Christians supreme, basically kingmakers within the Republican Party. One thing I found out is that because that's illegal, or it was until the Speech Now, which is the nonprofit equivalent of Citizens United, saying nonprofits could do some campaigning. But at the time it was illegal. Ralph Reed was asked to provide all the internal documents about their relationships with the Bush campaign. And I know from insiders, and Robertson never contradicted me on this, that he and Ralph Reed went through their file cabinets and basically ordered the shredding and burning of all incriminating papers.
Wow.
And when an employee said, "What are you doing? These papers have been subpoenaed by the Department of Justice," Ralph Reed said, "Oh, just blow my brains out. We'll all go to jail." And so, this is a criminal. The Christian Coalition is a criminal enterprise. So I have to say that I asked Pat, like I spent all day with him with my recorder. I did ask him because he did say that God asked him to run for president, and I said, with a campaign manager like the Lord, how could you lose? And he said, well, the Lord asked me to run for president, not to win. Out of that run, I created a mailing list of 3 million people. That became, by the way, illegally, because he used his campaign for it, illegally, the Christian Coalition grew out of his presidential campaign. And he says, now no Republican can run for dog catcher without the Christian Coalition's approval. That's what he got. And that's what happened. So he may be gone, but the dead hand of the Christian right is running that party, and that was his goal. And so you could say the man was successful.
And it's amazing, those so-called believers, the real non-believers in this world who supported Trump, all those religious types, I mean, it really was an extraordinary perversion of religion and real belief. And then, of course, the ultimate kill is the end of separation of church and state, which we're experiencing now. Wouldn't you say, Greg?
Well, actually, that's why he was completely successful. Church and state are no longer separated. In fact, we expect the courts now to specifically end any prohibitions on religious organizations politicking. By the way, for those who want to read the full investigation, the award-winning investigation, which was also in my book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, go to gregpalast.com. You can read the original Guardian investigation, and I'm offering for free download the audiobook of The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. I think it's Al Franken who reads the chapter about the Reverend Pat.
Beautiful, beautiful. Greg, we got to get out of here now. Again, we thank you for joining us. Good to have you when it appears that the former president of the United States has been indicted. We're going to find out more about that. We got to confirm that. Greg, be safe. We'll talk to you soon.
You got me. See you again, Dennis. Bye.
See you soon. Great work, Greg. Thanks. You're listening to Flashpoints on Pacifica Radio.